right now to give a warm Auckland, New Zealand welcome for my good friend and the world's greatest sales trainer, Mr. Jordan Belfort.
People love to see a rags to riches story.
Says that he's a best-selling author, a rock star stockbroker, and a master salesman.
He was more like a god of sales.
Where a middle-class man fights against the world.
I'm not fucking leaving! The show goes on!
Ultimately becoming one of the richest stockbrokers in the world.
Everybody knows him as the real Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort.
But this is not one of those stories.
Many of his victims, hundreds of them, lost much or all of their life savings.
He still owes over $100 million in restitution to the federal government, which is supposed to go to the victims.
How the biggest stockbroker of Wall Street became the greatest manipulator of this century. In 1962, Jordan Belfort was born into a Jewish family in New York City. His parents were both accountants who worked hard and lived a middle-class life. But this modest, blue-collar upbringing was far from Jordan's ambitions. His first encounter with business came in his teens, selling Italian ices with a friend at a local beach. On the sunny shores of Long Island, Jordan first discovered his natural talent for sales, where he earned more than $20,000 in a single summer. He used this money to enroll in the University of Maryland School of Dentistry, where he lasted only one day.
So I went to dental school, and the first day I walked in, I'll never forget this, there was 105 kids sitting in the dental auditorium, and the dean's in the front, and this gray-haired guy, and then he says, let me say this, the golden age of dentistry is over. If you're here to make a lot of money, you're probably in the wrong place. I'm like, what the fuck, I'm in the wrong place. I stood up and I walked away.
With big dreams of getting rich, Jordan started his journey at a meat selling company. As a salesman, he sold meat and seafood door to door on Long Island, New York. And here he discovered something which later became the foundation of his big empire, the art of sales.
Knock on it. It's like this giant fucking mansion, right? It's like the Wizard of Oz. I'm like, I'm here to see the wizard, like that fucking big, right? I knock on the door, right? The woman opens up the door, and I'll give you my pitch. Said, hey, my name's Joy. I deliver meat and seafood to some of your neighbors. I got a few extra boxes on the truck. I'll give you everything it cost. The first day, I sold all 35 boxes. I almost saw a woman in the truck. She almost bought my fucking truck from me because she felt bad for me, right?
Jordan quickly grew this meat-selling business and became the top salesman in no time. But his hunger to become rich pushed him forward, and within a month, he started his own meat-selling company. By the 1980s, he had employed several workers and was selling 5,000 pounds of meat and fish each week. Pretty good for someone in their 20s. But eventually, things went south, and at the age of 25, he had to file for bankruptcy. Being broke was the biggest fear of Jordan. Recalling this time in his memoir, he wrote, "We would get down on our hands and knees and roll up change to pay for shampoo. That's how poor we were." And probably that's why he decided to become rich.
There is no nobility in poverty. I have been a rich man and I have been a poor man, and I choose rich every fucking time.
After his meat business failed, Jordan joined L.F. Rothschild as a stockbroker trainee, where he mainly worked as a connector.
Which means that you will be dialing the phone over 500 times a day, trying to connect me with wealthy business owners.
On his first day at L.F. Rothschild, Jordan met Mark Hanna, who became his first mentor. Within a few hours, Mark told him that no one knows if a stock will go up or down or sideways. Hence, the real way to make money on Wall Street was to rob clients and fill your own pockets. I mean,
Via commission, motherfucker.
And apart from the tutorial on how to become rich, Mark also introduced him to 2 tickets for Wall Street, which soon became his habit. We're talking about
Cocaine and hookers, my friend.
Jordan immersed himself to understand the details of investing. He demanded answers to his questions and used his spare time to study the behaviors of investors. He was always looking for ways to climb up the corporate ladder. And for him, things were really going well until a disaster struck.
October 19th, 1987, a day that would come to be known as Black Monday. The Dow plunged 22.6%. It had never happened before. It's still the biggest one-day percentage loss of all time.
As a result, Jordan faced the consequences and he was laid off. So once again, Jordan needed work, but this time he had the experience of Wall Street. This led him to take a job in a small-time investing firm known as Investor Center, a company that was dealing in over-the-counter investing, and it influenced Jordan to play the corrupt game of penny stocks, which we will get to later. Exchange brokerages like LF Rothschild traded on big public exchanges like the New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ. And this setup came with a solid layer of protection from not only the exchange themselves, but also from regulatory bodies like the SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission. Now, OTC brokerages were playing a different game. These firms operated outside formal exchanges, meaning trades happened directly between parties without the same level of regulation. Unlike exchange brokerages, small companies could approach these, and OTC firms would say, "Sure, but we'll keep 20% of all the money we raised for you." As a result, whether the companies grew or failed, OTC brokers would inevitably earn their cut. This became Jordan's roadmap to getting rich. He quickly mastered this art and earned the title of the greatest penny stock broker of all time. But just like the meat and seafood business, Jordan once again decided to cut out the middleman by starting his own firm as Stratton Oakmont.
So I recruited some of my hometown boys. Sea Otter, who sold meat and weed. Chester, who sold tires and weed. And Robbie, who sold anything he could get his hands on, mostly weed.
You can already see the pattern here. So Jordan has already discovered a loophole in the system. And now he was making good money, as he put it.
I was selling garbage to garbage men and making cash hand over fist.
But he was still craving something bigger, and it led him to begin his game of manipulation and scams. He used pump and dump schemes to artificially inflate the price of penny stocks and scammed his investors with a systematic plan. First, he would set up some unaffiliated but trustworthy connections, which he called rat holes, so that they could buy up a large number of stocks in a small value company. Once his connections owned a big enough portion of the company, he would instruct his brokers to sell those stocks. Now, brokers in Stratton Oakmont would use high-pressure sales tactics to pitch their stocks by saying, "This stock has doubled in a week, so get in now or you're going to regret it later." And once the stock reached a certain level, Jordan would order his rat holes to start selling. Meanwhile, brokers were instructed to not answer any calls of investors who were trying to offload their holdings until the rat holes had sold all their shares. So at the end, all the investors lost their money, and Belfort made millions. This scheme was taken to new heights when Stratton Oakmont entered into IPOs. Jordan used the same pump and dump scheme here. He would instruct his rat holes to buy up the stock in a company he was about to take public. The company would then debut on the public market, and Jordan would instruct his army of brokers to aggressively sell the IPO stock to all their contacts. This not only increased the stock prices, but also attracted the attention of some other investors. People would hear the news that some IPO was up 50% at open, and then they would invest in it blindly. The rat holes would then exploit the buying frenzy to silently sell their stocks, netting them a very healthy profit. And that's how you make
$22 million in 3 fucking hours!
For Jordan, this strategy became the ultimate money-making scam. And by the age of 34, he had already taken more than 20 companies public, earning an enormous fortune. But that's where his downfall began. By 1991, Stratton Oakmont generated $30 million in commissions from a 150-person workforce, and that's why Forbes decided to cover a profile about Jordan covering his story. On the plus side, the Forbes coverage highlighted Belfort's approach to teaching his eager young employees the art of cold calling potential investors. But Forbes also pointed out Stratton Oakmont's lax approach to ethics, noting that the SEC began investigating the brokerage in its first year of operations due to questionable sales and trading practices. Along with the SEC's receipt of customer complaints, Forbes dubbed Belfort as a kind of twisted Robin Hood who takes from the rich and gives to himself and his merry band of brokers. So the article, which was intended to showcase his achievements and charismatic personality, ended up exposing the illicit activities that Jordan desperately wanted to keep hidden. Later, he defended his actions, claiming, "We contact high net worth investors. I couldn't live with myself if I was calling people who make $50,000 a year and I'm taking their child's tuition money." But as the SEC investigation proceeded, Jordan began to panic that his empire might fall anytime. Besides his financial scams, he was also struggling with his wild drug habits. Once, he almost crashed his helicopter, flying with one eye closed because he was so high that his depth perception was off. He even sank a yacht and became so desperate for more drugs that his secretary had to send him a fresh supply to London via Concorde because he had consumed them all.
Yep, on a daily basis I consume enough drugs to sedate Manhattan, Long Island, and Queens for a month.
In every way, Stratton Oakmont was drawing a lot of unwanted attention. Entities such as the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, and the National Association of Securities Dealers, NASD, had their sights on the firm as far back as 1989, intending to shut it down. As a result, in 1994, the SEC finally managed to corner Belfort and charge him with illegal practices. He reached a settlement in which he was forced to pay $2.5 million in fines and was banned from running any brokerage firm. But it was just the beginning of his fall. Belfort soon realized that the FBI had been investigating him for potential money laundering. Having the feds on him only increased his drug use, which was already plenty. Jordan faced his final checkmate when authorities detained his Swiss banker on money laundering charges. As a result, Belfort was convicted of stock manipulation, fraud, and money laundering, and people came to realize that he was not a financial genius, but a scam artist. In 1999, he pled guilty to the charges and agreed to cooperate with the authorities, ultimately receiving a 4-year prison sentence. That's it. Not really. Belfort was supposed to serve a sentence of at least 4 years, but he came out within 22 months. Secondly, he was also instructed to pay $110 million to investors who were victims of his schemes, a sum that doesn't cover all their losses. But to this day, he has not paid even half of that amount.
Belfort says in the media that he's paying back all the money to the victims. Well, one just needs to go to the court file to know that's not true. He isn't, and he hasn't for years.
He argues that he is not making enough money. However, sources suggest a different story. He is living a luxurious life, giving motivational talks, hosting his podcast, and earning royalties from his books. But just mention repaying his victims, and he acts like you've insulted his entire family tree.
Really quick. We've been audited.
I think you can air what you want here out of this interview. It's done. Oh my God. You got a lot of nerve, boy, I'll tell you.
And after the film, starring Leonardo DiCaprio, Jordan has gained celebrity status. Instead of focusing on the harm he caused to thousands of people, the movie was more about his charismatic character and how people are idealizing him even after knowing his scams and criminal activities.
So I'm still waiting for my check from Jordan. I'm sure it's in the mail.
Some may argue that now he is a changed man, which is true to some degree. But the question remains, how did a man who scammed an entire country end up gaining a movie star level fame?
Sell me this pen.
Jordan's story is a complete package of ambition, wealth, and manipulation. But if you're looking to uncover the secrets of investing, don't miss our next video on Ann Scheiber. Discover how a woman quietly turned a modest income into a multi-million-dollar fortune and how her final investment changed the world.